I understood Tupac and I were powerful, you know? Two folks raised coastal beef. Tupac Shakur and Christopher Wallace, the Notorious B.I.G, were hip-hop legends. What started as a strong friendship became one of music's most talked-about rivalries, full of loyalty, treachery, and tragedy. Tension, music, and media frenzy linked their stories forever. We're the best at using business opportunities to get on gangsters. Biggie Smalls broke his silence over Tupac 1 week before his death. Legends first met in 1993, when East Coast and West Coast still shook hands. Tupac Shakur was a rising celebrity, platinum-selling rapper, movie star, and icon of unbridled fire. Biggie Smalls, still Christopher Wallace to most, was striving to be heard in Brooklyn's clamor. Party and Bees, his debut track, dropped. It was fresh and hungry, but he wasn't famous. Music naturally brought them together. Some believe it happened on poetic justice. Tupac was repeating Biggie's song, nodding proudly. That alone was a Biggie moment. Imagine having your voice reverberate out while a famous rapper bops to it like his anthem. Not just flattery, but recognition. But the true connection wasn't on set. A house with steak aromas, laughter, and plastic Kool-Aid cups was the setting. Biggie wasn't cheered by Tupac. He treated him brotherly. He entered the kitchen, grabbed a pan, and cooked for everyone. Pac welcomed guests with steaks, fries, and bread. No cameras or stage, just two young men from separate coasts breaking bread and sharing stories. That night started something remarkable. Biggie wasn't looked down on by Tupac, who was already famous. Lifting him up, giving guidance, passing Hennessy bottles, and offering a sofa to crash on when Biggie was in Los Angeles. The respect and magnetic energy were mutual, and the world soon saw that chemistry. On July 23, 1993, Tupac and Biggie performed at the New York Palladium. In the crowd, they freestyled word for word. No beef, no rivalry, simply skill meeting skill. They were pals and reflections, different coastlines, pasts, but the same need. Biggie wanted Tupac to oversee his career. Trust was that deep. It's impossible not to imagine what if things had continued. This preceded the shadows, headlines, and shooting. Tupac is cooking dinner in a tiny kitchen. Biggie was laughing at the table, two future legends ignorant of the storm. Cracks formed under the surface even then. Biggie warned Tupac about hanging out with Haitian Jack and Jimmy Henchman, two dangerous, fast-moving New York personalities. Tupac ignored Biggie's advice to distrust Smilers. He might not have been able or wanted to, but that was the start. They had no idea that their friendship would become one of music's most notorious feuds. Biggie finally spoke out a week before his death. The night changed everything. Today is November 30, 1994. The night in New York City was cold and crisp, with a silent tension. Tupac Shakur flew in to hustle, record, and remain occupied. He worked on films, guest appearances, and whatever else to make money. While in court, every studio verse meant another $1 toward his freedom. Tupac was summoned to Times Square Quad recording studios that night. Lil Cease, Biggie's junior mafia partner, called. They were his people, therefore. Tupac trusted them. Biggie and Lil Sean were reportedly working on a project upstairs at the studio. Just another night for a traveling musician, Tupac was told to stop by and record a verse. But the night didn't go as planned. While walking through Quad Studios' foyer, Tupac heard familiar voices from above. Cease was thrilled. He ran to Pac, smiling and energetic. The hallway descended into mayhem shortly later. 3 armed men confronted Tupac in the lobby. Later, he said he fought back, wrestling one for a gun. The moment was too urgent and violent. 1 bullet hit his head, and another went through his leg. 5 total. They beat him, stole his jewels, and left him bleeding on the cold floor. A message was sent, not merely attacked. Still aware, Tupac went upstairs. He found Biggie. He later said his face appeared weird, astonished, scared, and possibly guilty. Biggie explained later, he was shocked that Tupac thought he was involved. "I still think he's my man," Biggie said. "This nonsense must be talked about. I can't believe he thought I'd hurt him." Pac wasn't listening. For him, there was no coincidence. He was nearly killed after being called to that studio. He connected the dots in his heart, whether they belonged together or not. He no longer believed in coincidence. He supported betrayal. What happened next was worse. The world kept turning while Pac was hospitalized, and subsequently imprisoned for SA accusations. The new Biggie song is Who Shot Ya?, a harsh, angry tune that mocked Pac's recent survival. Biggie said the song was composed before the shooting and had nothing to do with Tupac. What about timing? The title? It didn't feel random. Tupac was jailed, without freedom, a mic, or a stage to defend himself. Just rage and ideas. Rumors spread. The streets chattered. Some attributed it to Bad Boy. Others believed it was just a heist. Tupac was determined. He had internalized the treachery, true or not. The history exacerbated the betrayal. Tupac let Biggie sleep on his California couch. Biggie received advice from him when he started. They shared stages, laughing and food. That was brotherhood. Now brotherhood was dust. Tupac valued loyalty beyond all else. He believed Biggie violated the code. Maybe it was paranoia. Perhaps a misunderstanding masked by lousy timing and street gossip. It was genuine to Tupac. Without trust, friendship dies. The Quad Studios shooting scarred Tupac and divided rap. It started the spiral, and nothing was the same again. Not simply the fallout haunted Biggie, what he couldn't say. He confessed a week before his death. Conflict between coasts. Tupac Shakur, imprisoned and outraged, felt betrayed, alone, and hounded. From his perspective, his trusted people had abandoned him. He never forgot the Quad Studio shooting, and rumors that Biggie knew or was involved persisted. Suge Knight, Death Row Records CEO, marched through the music industry like a general choosing his next soldier. Suge offered Tupac revenge and a record deal. He flew across the nation, posted Tupac's $1.40 million bail, and picked him up in a limousine. That gesture alone was powerful. Tupac exited prison with a new outfit, team, and war. After Tupac signed with Death Row, East-West antagonism went beyond music. Before that, it was smoke, song insults, record sales competition, and interview attacks. Now that Tupac joined Death Row, the spark caught. Death Row and Bad Boy's vicious and lethal conflict between two coasts, two universes, and two huge egos went beyond artists. Death Row was a West Coast powerhouse. Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and now Tupac used it to express defiance. With precision and swagger, Bad Boy Records ruled the East. Suge Knight stood on stage at the 1995 Source Awards in New York, looked directly at the East Coast industry leaders, and slammed Bad Boy Records for executive producers dancing in videos. Fast-starting boos. Soon after, Snoop Dogg took the podium and slammed the New York crowd for not showing love. Hip-hop and the room were divided into two that night. Tupac and Biggie didn't start this tension. These seedlings were planted years ago. West Coast artists were bored with East Coast artists dictating hip-hop since the early 1990s. A lyrical exchange began when Tim Dog's F. Compton criticized West Coast performers, and Dre's The Chronic responded. The competition was primarily on wax until Tupac and Biggie added heat. After jail, Tupac returned to the combat in the Death Row camp. He returned to the wreck. Tupac represented West Coast vengeance with Suge Knight and Death Row's Full Might. He dropped Hit 'Em Up. Not simply a diss, the track. Tupac made it personal, upfront, and unmistakable from the start. He wasn't a metaphor wordplay expert. Called names. His punches hit hard. He transformed years of pain, betrayal, and resentment into a nuclear-level retaliation that revolutionized rap diss forever in minutes. Hit 'Em Up raged over the Quad Studios shooting, retribution for feeling abandoned in prison. The whole group was targeted, not just Biggie. The song's release shook the world. No one had heard anything like it. Tupac attacked. He brought up previous favors, friendships, and charges that bridged art and life. After he accused Biggie's wife of sleeping with him, Biggie was humiliated. Let's discuss Biggie's ex-wife and Bad Boy singer. Tupac met her at a party in late 1995. She contributed vocals to one of his songs. Afterward, rumors spread. Tupac hinted that they were intimate, that she bought him gifts, and that their relationship was more than business. His story made headlines once he informed the media. Faith refused everything. She said Tupac never paid her and that his stories were frauds. It didn't matter. The damage was done. Biggie kept his calm in public despite his displeasure. He held back on diss tracks. He refused the bait. Pressure ate him alive behind closed doors. The possibility that his wife was engaged with his betrayer was too much to bear. The barrier between music and life was blurred. Now it was gone. The fighting continued in 1996. Dropped more diss tunes. More interviews became battlegrounds. People sided more. Behind it all were Tupac and Biggie, formerly pals, but now symbols of something more. Death of Tupac. However, this rivalry quickly became fatal, something beyond music that impacted real life and claimed one of its greatest voices. On September 7, 1996, Tupac witnessed Mike Tyson versus Las Vegas, NGM Grand Bruce Seldon bout. He arrived with Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight in a high-profile entourage that was as much about protection as presence. Celebration was planned for the night. Tyson won his fight swiftly, and the energetic audience overflowed into the Casino Hotel's luxurious halls. Everything unraveled in the lobby minutes after the brawl. Orlando Anderson, a Southside Compton Crip, was seen at the entrance by Death Row affiliate and Mo B. Pyrus gang member Trevin Lane. Anderson allegedly tried to rob Lane in a mall months previously. Lane reminded Tupac of Anderson with the recollection still fresh. Tupac acted quickly. Later, surveillance footage showed him approaching Anderson, asking where he was from, then punching him. Tupac, Knight, and others beat Anderson to the ground, causing chaos. Security stopped the battle swiftly, but the damage was done. What seemed like justice at the time would darken the night. Tupac informed his lover, Kidada Jones, at the Luxor Hotel. He promised to seek her out after the battle, but his mood had altered. He showered, changed, and prepared for a Suge Knight-owned charity event at Club 662. Tupac never appeared at the Death Row celebration, which was supposed to be another public event. Tupac and Suge were in a black BMW at a red light at East Flamingo Road and Lane after 11 p.m. After a car full of women came up next to them on the left, Tupac, leaning out the window, joked with them, flashing his typical charm. Air was hot and heavy, with Vegas Strip energy pulsing. Next, a white Cadillac arrived on the right. Suddenly, the rear passenger window opened, and a Glock-wielding hand emerged. Loud, quick gunshots rang out into the night. 4 times, Tupac was hit in the chest, thigh, and arm. One bullet pierced his lung. Despite being grazed by shrapnel, Suge drove them a short distance before being halted by authorities. Paramedics took Tupac to the University Medical Center in minutes. His health was critical. A medically induced slumber followed his sedated and life-supporting treatment. His friends, family, and hip-hop world held their breath for 6 days. After seeing Tupac in the hospital, Death Row video director Gobi Rahimi said they feared the shooters would return to finish the job. Rumors spread. Killers allegedly called Death Row to threaten that the job wasn't done. Machines beeped and hissed while Tupac lay still in the hospital. Kidada, his girlfriend, whispered to him to reach the once invincible guy. She played music next to his bed, just in case he heard something familiar, and came back. She stated he stirred when she played Vincent by Don McLean, his eyes puffy and crying. But recuperation never came. Tupac's body gave in the afternoon of September 13, 1996. After his injuries, respiratory failure and heart arrest took over. Afeni Shakur, his mother, decided. Tupac Amaru Shakur died at 4:03 p.m. Biggie's last thoughts were at 25. Nothing was the same after Tupac's death. All eyes were on Biggie's response. Many were present. Statements, interviews, and subtle observations throughout performances and appearances. One was unique. Biggie Smalls spoke about Tupac a week before his death. That moment was heavy because of what he said and how he said it. Biggie claimed Tupac was more than my rival, a powerful man. His speech was not harsh or angry. In the tumult of their feud, he didn't justify every decision. He acknowledged the weight of what had transpired and, more crucially, their responsibility in generating it. He stated that he only realized the full impact of their conflict after it escalated. 2 young guys, both icons, represented entire coasts, cities, and mentalities. That was never intended. Biggie said he was devastated when he realized the feud had transcended beyond personal and was uncontrollable. He said it perplexed and upset him to watch strangers treat him like an enemy because of his skin color. He said people who didn't know him resented him because of Tupac's words, or the media's twisting of every minor detail into a headline. His regret about the heightened situation revealed that he recognized it had gone too far. His album Ready to Die was formed from anguish and fury, he thought. He felt surrounded by sorrow, hardship, and streets that didn't care if he lived or died. But just days before Life After Death's release, he stated things were different. Not the same man. He couldn't rap about the streets anymore after seeing the results. After seeing what it did to Tupac, he thought it could happen to him. And he was right. He didn't want to fight anymore because he realized the cost. Not because he was afraid. He said it was up to him to shift the tone and use his influence to heal instead of divide. He knew Tupac couldn't stop it since he was gone. Biggie said, "It's my turn." That interview situation was different. It didn't sound like a rapper to the press. He sounded like a traumatized man processing his past. He didn't praise beef. He didn't smile when saying Tupac. He paused repeatedly, glanced down, and let silence speak for his lack of words. He described working with artists from around the country to prove it could be done, not to make a statement. He wanted to show that togetherness was possible after all, that artists from different sides might appreciate, collaborate, and create something significant. Another victim. From the interview, Biggie knew he would die, but never so soon. Big Christopher Wallace visited Los Angeles in February 1997. He was promoting his highly anticipated second album, Life After Death, and filming the music video for its first hit, Hypnotize. The energy around him was huge. The March 25 record release was planned. His reappearance, his evolution from street tales to something more full, was planned. He presented Tony Braxton with a Soul Train Music Awards prize on March 7. Crowd's reaction was mixed. Some cheered, others booed. The room's tension reminded them of the Coastal feud's wounds. Biggie wasn't mad. He departed the stage after saying what he needed. Instead of flying to London the next day, he stayed in LA one extra night. That choice killed. Biggie attended a packed Peterson Automotive Museum after-party on March 8. Vibe magazine hosted the event, which featured singers, actors, producers, and even gang members. Over 1,000 visitors danced, drank, and forgot about the outside world in the museum. However, the night ended. Due to congestion and noise concerns, authorities closed it, forcing the party to spill onto Los Angeles streets after midnight. Sitting in the front passenger seat of one of two green GMC Suburbans, Biggie departed the venue with buddies Lil Cease, Damien, D-Rock Butler, and his driver, Gregory G. Money Young. At 12:45 a.m., Biggie's SUV stopped at Wilshire and Fairfax due to museum traffic. That was it. A dark Chevrolet Impala approached their car. The driver, wearing a light blue suit and bow tie, rolled down his window, pulled out a 9mm pistol, and fired. The stillness was shattered by 6 gunshots. They hit Biggie 4 times. The automobile drove off into the night. Doctors tried everything at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center when his team rushed him there. At 1:15 a.m., the music stopped. Christopher Wallace died at 24. The loss shook the industry. Not just another artist perished. The voice of a generation was in it. The death of Biggie just months after Tupac's murder felt like a sad final indication that this dispute had gone too far. How would hip-hop history have evolved if Tupac and Biggie had reconciled before their deaths? Comment and subscribe to our channel for more.